If you're in your 50s, there's a decent chance you're either in the middle of launching your kids or you're about to be. And I want to talk to you directly about that. Because I think a lot of us, and I include myself in this, we're carrying around a mental model of what launching looks like and is 25 years out of date. And that gap between what we think the world is and what it actually is, it's doing real damage to our kids and to our relationship with them. I have 3 kids. They're now 21, 20, and 18. So I have been living this real time. And what I've seen, it has genuinely changed how I think about my responsibilities as a parent. So let me just lay out what I'm seeing. The economy your kids are entering, it's not the economy you entered. When I was in my 20s, a college degree was a golden ticket, right? Get a degree, get a job, get an apartment, start climbing. The path was reasonably clear. Sure, that ticket cost something, but it was totally worth it. And most people, they could afford to pay for that ticket without mortgaging their future. But that deal is totally gone. Today, students are finishing degrees carrying $60,000, $80,000, even $100,000 in debt. And they're taking out private loans with interest rates that make credit cards look reasonable. And they're graduating into a job market that increasingly doesn't even care that they have the degree, because everyone applying for the job has the degree. That degree, it became the floor, not the ladder it used to be for us. And at the same time, everything that used to come next, the apartment, the car, the starter house, it's moved so far out of reach that an entire generation has had to redefine what a reasonable first chapter of adult life even looks like. Take housing, for instance. Let me just say it plainly. People in my generation, we were looking at our first house in our 30s. My kids, they'll be 40 in their 40s if they're lucky. In major metropolitan areas, entry-level homeownership, it's really become a fantasy for working people. Then you have cars, crazy expensive. My kids needed cars to work, of course, yours do too. I bought them all used cars. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm telling you that as a deliberate choice I made because I understood something. A car payment in year 1 of adulthood now, it's just something you can't afford to carry. And if there's any way to avoid it, you need to. And even used cars are crazy expensive now. We had the supply chain crisis during COVID, and then interest rates are way higher now. In fact, I couldn't even believe this. The average used car transaction is now over $30,000 for a used car. It's a different world than the one where I bought my first beater for $1,500. And then you have the wages they're facing. Real wages for working people without advanced degrees, and frankly, even for people with advanced degrees, they barely moved in 30 years when you account for inflation. Sure, productivity has increased a lot. The economy has grown enormously. But the share of that growth that flows to people who actually do the work, it's been shrinking for decades, and that's what your kids are facing. Now let me give you a specific example that I think captures all of this better than just statistics. My in-laws, they're 20 years older than me. Neither of them has a college degree. Yet they both retired with good pensions. Both of them worked their entire careers at jobs that paid well, offered benefits, and treated them with dignity. And here's the part that just doesn't exist anymore. These two, they were essentially accepted into a white-collar workforce, the stable, pension, middle-class workforce, without a degree, without even a credential, just based on the fact that they were willing to show up and work hard. Try that today. That does not exist anymore. And that's another thing your kids are facing. So my in-laws, because that was their experience, they just don't understand why young people are struggling. And it's not really a character indictment of them. This is a framing problem. The frame they're using is 40 years old. It doesn't fit the picture anymore. And here's one more thing on top of everything, AI. I work in technology. I have for 30 years, and I've got a clear view of what's going on. Artificial intelligence is not coming for knowledge work someday. It's here now. It's already reshaping the entry-level job market, and it's just going to get worse. Employers are slowing down hiring for entry-level positions. And it's not because there aren't candidates. It's because they know they need less people, and it's all while productivity continues to climb. Why hire a junior analyst when AI does it for free? This isn't theoretical. This is happening in real time to real 22-year-olds right now. This is one of the reasons I've deliberately steered my kids away from traditional college to desk jobs. I've been thinking hard about what kind of work actually is durable nowadays. What requires a human being in a physical space, doing something with their hands or their body, or having a relationship with another person. For instance, my oldest daughter, she's an aircraft mechanic at a major airline. And my middle son, he went to massage therapy school. Neither of those paths looked like what my generation was told success was supposed to look like. But both of them are doing work that is resistant to automation, that requires a license, it has real demand, and it doesn't carry that huge debt load of a 4-year degree. And I'm not going to tell you those were easy choices to make. There's a voice in every parent's head, maybe louder in mine because I came up through technology, that says college, degree, that's the career track. That's the track you need to be on. But I had to rethink that because the data, it does not support it anymore. And here's another thing on top of everything, and this one gets no airtime in the conversation about launching kids, and I think it's one of the most interesting things. This is not just a money thing that makes launching so hard. The world your kids are walking into, it's cognitively harder than anything you or I experienced at their age. Yeah, over years, this happened slowly to us. I call it the boiling frog analogy. Let me explain what I mean. When my wife and I were young, we paid our bills once a month. That was the full extent of our bureaucratic life. At the end of the month, we'd pull all the paper bills from the bin by the door. We'd sit down, write checks, put them in envelopes, and stick them in the mailbox. Done. Back to your life. Today, I have online accounts I have to set up and track. Constant email notifications and text reminders from every vendor I've ever given my email to. Digital accounts for every utility, subscription, insurance policy. Password management, two-factor authentication, annual renewals for things I've forgotten I signed up for. The mental overhead of managing a modern adult life, it is substantial. And here's the thing. I didn't really notice all this accumulate, and this is the boiling frog analogy. It just added on one layer at a time over 30 years. We didn't notice that water getting hotter and hotter, but it's boiling now. And your 20-year-old, they got to jump directly into it. From day one of adulthood, they're expected to manage automatic payments, filing their taxes, handling health insurance enrollment, dental appointments, renewing their car registration, navigating benefits portals and 401k options, paying their student loans through the federal system. All of it. They got to do it immediately. No runway, no gradual entry. They just got to jump right in. The entry requirements for this adulthood, they've just never been higher. And no one's teaching them all this. So what do? I want to be clear. I'm not asking you to rescue your kids or solve every problem for them. I'm not even saying the goal is to remove the difficulty. Some of the difficulty is the point after all. Struggle builds capacity, they grow. What I'm saying is, understand what you're actually asking them to navigate. Don't compare them to yourself at 22, because you at 22, you had a completely different set of inputs. If you can give them a used car, give it to them. They need that help. If you can avoid student debt for them, for God's sakes, do it. If you can give them a year of runway, a place to land while they get their footing, give them that year without guilt or commentary. And most importantly, if you find yourself thinking, I did it on my own at their age, why can't they do it? Just stop with that. Sit down with that thought and then ask yourself honestly, did you actually do it in the world they're living in? Because I don't think so. You did it in a world that really no longer exists. I think the most dangerous thing we can do right now as parents is to make the mistake that that standard is the same one that applies now. Our kids, they're not weak. The water is just a lot hotter than it looks. That's what I've got for you today. If this landed, I'd love to know. Leave it in the comments. I'll be back next week. I'll see you then.